This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by Breaking.com.
But you didn't cite the remainder of the definition, which is or, to which I intend to return after a temporary absence. So I do intend to return to the address that I'd originally put down. Address that is a place that I return after temporary absences. So it would seem that that qualifies under the state's definition of what a domicile is.
I'm going to...
Actually, Bill, if you don't mind me stepping in here.
Who are you?
I'm the Assistant City Attorney, Leon Quinquez. 654:1 is where a domicile is defined. And what you'll see there is, I've highlighted the pertinent part for you, but it's an inhabitant's domicile for voting purposes. Is that one place where a person, more than any other place, has established a physical presence? I doubt you can establish a physical presence in a 6x12 box. It manifests an intent to maintain a single continuous presence for domestic, social, and civil purposes relevant to participating in democratic self-government.
I see what that says, but I also see your forms, and your forms say even if I were to put street on there, it doesn't ask for an actual address, and the domicile is defined here as well in 654:7.
Well, we're not accepting 39 Central Square as a domicile address. That's the long and the short of it.
I'm here today to affirm that I live within the geographic designation known as Keene, and specifically Ward 4. So if I'm affirming that it's my understanding that that's the purpose of the domicile affidavit.
Take it a little step further. We want to see your street address, your domicile address in Ward 4. That's what we want.
Right. So as a private individual, I'm not particularly interested in having my private information appear on the city's voter rolls.
Yeah.
So that's why I've chosen that.
Sure.
It's no
and you're
secret.
right, that would be posted on
Right.
There is a statute where you can have your name, your address not appear on the checklist, but there's a statutory process for that. We aren't familiar with the details of that, but it certainly is. There are occasions where the address will not appear on the checklist and you're still a registered voter.
So you aren't familiar with that process?
Nope.
It's not
Board of competent jurisdiction would have to.
It's
Yeah.
not
have to
our
grant that.
office that does that.
Okay. So then what you're saying is even though your form says street and ward number, you're saying that, so if I put down a street, would that be sufficient for your purposes?
Well, a street number and the street name. That's what we want. Because some street names are dividing lines. So one house number is one ward, one house number is another.
So is it really necessary to even know what the ward is if I'm running for a citywide?
That's not really the point. The point is we want a qualified domicile address. That's what we want from you.
Okay. So...
So here's the domicile affidavit we want you to review.
Right. The one that I filled out was the one from the state's website with
Yeah.
their required information. Yours
Yeah.
asks for more information than is actually required by the state's rules. At least
No.
that's
Should
how
be
it
the
is.
same.
I think it's the issue of the alignment of the text.
Well, I mean, I can cite you different things here. You can just go down the list of, instead of full name, it just says name. Here it's street and ward number. Here street, ward number, and I realize they're separated on the lines. It also says place of birth, date of birth, place and date of birth,
State. Here's the state. This is the state
town, city,
document.
Or
versus,
zip code.
What's online there
yeah.
is different than what I'm. This is to me would be a more official document than a website.
Okay, well, let's look at this. And I'm not going to fill it in or anything
I want
like
to
that.
use apples to apples.
But,
Yeah.
right, so, I mean, here, address,
Specific
street,
last name,
ward number.
name, first name, middle name.
Okay.
That's why we say
that's
full
not
name.
there, right.
Address, street, ward number. I think
Yeah.
it's implied that street has separations.
Sure, and I could see maybe filling in a street there, but again, we go back to the definition of what the domicile is. Now, he insists that it's in the first section, but here on the voter's registration form, it defines it as a place in which I return to after a temporary absence.
But that's assuming it's a place where you sleep and eat. You're not
But that's
returning
not
to
what
a
it
mailbox.
says. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Well, you have to read that in
Yeah.
combination with our
Right.
with one, which is the, like, one, it's the first preamble of the entire law, which then gets broken down into
This is
other.
for clarification and simplicity's sake. This is to explain to a voter what they have to do and to explain domicile to them. But for the purposes of voting, the definition that I read before is the adopted definition according to the state.
Okay, and what about the purposes of running for a political office?
You have to be
It'd be the same
qualified,
thing.
yes, you have to be qualified.
Okay, so, so then, in that case, you are asking for an actual street and address,
Right,
even though it doesn't require that on the form.
that's right, because it requires it on my form. This is my form. and
This form here
Yeah,
says that, it just says address, street, ward number, so
yeah.
there's no
yeah. That's all
number
right, Ian.
required there.
It's okay.
Are you asking me to go above and beyond what the minimum requirements are?
That they're not over and beyond. There might be some slight parsing of the text is different in this
Mm-hmm.
form. The layout might be different in this form. But this is a state of New Hampshire form. This is not a form that's generated by the city clerk's office.
What if I were to
This is
sign-
the form that the Secretary of State has provided us to use. So I'm confident this is the right form.
So what if I was to affirm to you the actual address where I live,
Uh-huh.
but you would agree to keep that information
I
private?
can't, but a court of competent jurisdiction to tell me to keep it confidential.
I don't know how all of that stuff works.
Yeah, well, there's a statute. I'm sure you could go online and read it.
As I said, it's not a secret.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
Just,
I know. And certainly, you're not the
request.
only one who's raised a concern with their street address being on a public record. You're not the only one who
And you're
suggests
saying
that.
if I were homeless, then I could say I live down by Ashwelot River, and that would be,
Yes, as long as you're willing to affirm that that is where you reside. It doesn't have to be a house with 4 walls and a sink and a bed.
Uh-huh.
But it cannot be a post office mailbox.
Okay, so I'm prepared to affirm that I live within Ward 4.
And
Is
so-
that possible?
I want you to affirm you live at a house or an apartment in Ward 4 with a street number and street name. That's what you need to do for us.
Okay, so you won't be accepting this then, even
No.
though I have filled it out to its
So it's also not
specification.
notarized. We want to have a
Well,
notary.
you're the election officer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something you.
But
can
you
do,
didn't sign
right?
it in front of my presence.
I
Or we-
did sign it in front of your staff today.
I thought it came in signed already. I didn't see you sign it, but
Well, I'll sign it again if you'd like.
No, we want you to fill out this one.
we'd rather you sign our form.
I'll just sign it again here. So, I feel as though this
This
meets
is incomplete.
It's
Yeah.
incomplete, yeah. You really just sort of need to do it again.
the purpose of the domicile affidavit to have me affirm that I live within a certain area.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm willing to affirm that.
good.
That's the purpose of this.
Yeah.
I
Not
live
with the
within Ward
specificity that we're asking for, Ian.
Me-
We want
more.
that one filled out. If you're not willing to do that, that's
So
your choice.
what will you do if this is all I give you?
Then we're going to say that you do not have a qualified address and that you did not meet the qualifications for running for office, and we intend to take you off the ballot.
Will I also be removed from the voters' rolls?
We will start that process as well.
That takes a different process. That'll begin today.
So how come the voters' registration form that I filled out was accepted?
A mistake on our part. We had confusing, conflicting information that there were apartments at 39 Central Square. We've got affidavits from the property owner that that is not the case.
I see. Well, I'm going to give you this because I believe that that is the minimum requirements. It affirms that I live within those political geographic boundaries, and it's my understanding that that's all you really need. I understand that you want this information, but I'm giving you what my understanding of your rules are, and if you differ and you want to go through your process and pull me off, that's your choice.
Well, this doesn't have a street and ward, this doesn't have a street address. That's our problem with that.
Yeah, I don't see any obligation here
Well, it
to
says it
provide
right
you
there,
with that.
street.
Yeah, I can give you a street, but I'm not going to give you.
Step in the right direction.
This program is brought to you by FreeKeen.com. FreeKeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. FreeKeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. FreeKeen.com.